Hello, welcome to this video. This is part 2 of my series on OCO, or one cancels the other. So one cancels the other would be a situation where you place two pending orders, and when one of those is activated, then you would want to cancel the other. So you might be bracketing the price in some kind of strategy. This is part 2. This is for MetaTrader 4. Part 1 was for MetaTrader 5. If you haven't seen that, and you're only interested in MetaTrader 4, then don't worry about part 1, because this video will cover everything for MetaTrader 4. The techniques for MetaTrader 4 are a little different, and so it's easier to have a complete video for MetaTrader 4. Just to demonstrate what I'm talking about, I've got an expert advisor here I'm calling OCO Part 2. This expert advisor will simply place a buy stop above the current price and a sell stop below the current price, and then that's basically it for this expert advisor. It does have the option of creating multiple sets of those orders at the close of each candle if I want to for demonstration, but all this does is place the orders. So let me just run this on the current chart. And there I can see on the chart that it has placed a buy stop with its own take profit and stop loss, and a sell stop with a take profit and stop loss for that sell stop. And you can see them also down here in the order window. Now, I'm not going to wait for the price to actually hit one of these, but what should happen when it hits it is the same thing that would happen if I simply close one. So if I, for example, delete this sell stop, that would be the same as this activating into a trade, and what should happen then is that the buy stop will go away. But because I haven't implemented any code yet, if I delete that, the buy stop is still there. So let me delete that for now. And we'll go to the code. I'll have a quick look at what this expert advisor is doing, and then I'll add the code to make the OCO happen. So here's the expert advisor. I have some inputs. There's this trade counter. As I said, it'll place one pair of trades initially, but then if I want to place multiple trades so that I can show the OCO working for multiple groups, I can change this from 1 to 5 or any other number, and it will place a new set of trades each new bar until it reaches this counter. There's the trade gap points. That's simply the distance from the current price to where that buy stop or sell stop is being placed. The stop loss take profit points, that's just the number of points for the stop loss and take profit for each of those, and then just a volume. So there's no trading logic in here at all. This is simply to place some trades for demonstration. I do have some global variables here: trade counter, trade gap, and stop loss take profit. The trade counter is there so that I can decrement this counter. I'm simply going to copy the input counter into here. The trade gap and the stop loss take profit are doubles so that I can do a one-time conversion of these points values into the double. In the on and it, so I'm just copying that trade counter into, or I'm copying the input trade counter into the working trade counter. And as I said, trade gap and stop loss take profit, I'm calling the points to double function just to convert those. It's not too important for today's demonstration, but that's all that's happening. And then in on tick, simply if trade counter is less than or equal to 0, I've run out of pairs that I want to create, and that will just return. Otherwise, I only want to run once per bar, and this code will simply compare the time for the current bar to the last known bar time. And then I just call this open order function to create a buy ticket and a sell ticket and decrement the trade counter. And the open order function just calculates the price, take profit and stop loss, depending on whether the order type is a buy or a sell. So that's all that's happening at the moment in this, and as I said, there's no trading logic in here. This expert advisor is purely as a shell to demonstrate the OCO functionality. I should also have property strict in here. So now let's go ahead and create all of that functionality for the OCO. First thing I'm going to do, because each of these are going to be created in pairs, I'll have a buy stop and a sell stop. And I'll mention now, this doesn't have to be just buy stop and sell stop. It could be buy stop and a buy limit, or a sell stop and a sell limit, or any two pending orders. So I'm going to create a structure to hold the pair of ticket numbers for those orders. So I've created the structure there that holds ticket 1 and ticket 2, but I also want to create a constructor for this structure. So this constructor will allow me to create a variable of type SOCO pair and pass actual arguments in when I create that variable, and it will just fill in this ticket 1 and ticket 2. I also know from creating the earlier video that I also need a constructor that takes no arguments. And I'll explain why I need that when I get to it. So now that I've got a structure that will hold a pair, I'm now going to create an array of this structure so that I can have an array of all of the pairs that I've created. So as I said, the trade counter here would let me create more than one set of orders. So if I want to do that, then I need an array to store those. So that's just a simple array of OCO pair types, SOCO pair. So in on init, I don't really need to do anything more, but just for safety, I'm going to initialize this array. And I'm just doing that by setting the size to 0. So now I'll move down to the onTick function. Here, where I've created two tickets, I've got a buy ticket and a sell ticket. And in my example here, I'm not checking to see that these open orders were successful. I'm just assuming they are. You might want to add some code to make sure that you've actually got the two orders created. But what I'm going to do after that, I'm going to call a function, which I'm about to write, which is OCO add. Okay, so I'm just calling that function to add these two tickets into the OCO array. And let's just add that function now. I'll add it down here at the end of the code. Make a bit of space there. And here I'm building in a test, so if you didn't test above to see that you actually had opened those trades, then ticket 1 or ticket 2 would have come back with 0 if you didn't open the trade successfully or didn't open the order successfully. So I've got a test in here. If ticket 1 is less than or equal to 0 or ticket 2 is less than or equal to 0, then I'll just return without adding this pair. This simply avoids clogging up the array with invalid ticket numbers, but you should still check those trades yourself, because if you simply call this, all it's going to do is return, and there's no warning to you that you've got a failed trade. So you should be checking it yourself. This is just to protect the array from having ticket numbers that are 0 in there. So now I'm just counting the size of that array, which we've initialized at the beginning to 0, but now I'm counting to see how many elements are already there, because I need to resize that. And here I'm creating a variable that I'm calling pair. It's of type SOCO pair, and here is where I'm using the constructor. So I'm just declaring the variable and then adding parentheses ticket 1, ticket 2, and that will call the constructor for the SOCO pair. So this will already have the ticket 1 and ticket 2 values filled in with these values. So then I'm calling array resize to increase the size of the OCO pairs. I've already got this count variable, so I want to make the size of OCO pairs count plus 1. And so now count points to, or count is the index of the last element in that array after this resize. So then I just do OCO pairs count equals pair. This statement is why I need that null constructor, because when I resize this array, it will instantly create a variable of type OCO pair or SOCO pair, but I'm not passing in any arguments to a constructor, so I actually need a constructor that takes no arguments there. So that's all it takes for the add, and this will simply increase the size of the array and add another pair onto that array. So back to the onTick. That's great for building up a list of these tickets, but I now need to check to see if any of these tickets have converted to an actual order, or maybe have just been cancelled. Now, because I've got this statement here, if trade counter is less than 0 return, or less than or equal to 0 return, once I get up to that trade counter, I actually still need to be checking the existing orders to make sure that nothing has converted. So I need to put my check for those right up at the beginning of this onTick function. And I'm going to call this function OCO close. Takes no arguments because I'm going to be looking through the entire array. So now I'll go back to the bottom of the code and I'll write this OCO close. In OCO close, what I have to do is check each of the pairs that I have in the array to see if either ticket 1 or ticket 2 has been cancelled or converted to a trade. So I'm just going to loop through everything here. Here's my standard array. For int I, I'm initializing that to array size of OCO pairs -1. So that will give me an index to the last element. While I is greater than or equal to 0, I minus minus. So my typical counting backwards, because I will be deleting elements from this array if I find some to close. Now this is the condition statement, and I might as well fill this in. So this condition statement, the first part here, order select, or rather not order select, I'm trying to select ticket number 1, OCO pairs I, index I, ticket 1, select by ticket. So select by ticket will find that ticket in either the current live trades or live open orders, or in history if it is in history, because it's a select by ticket. If that fails, so that's why I've got the not, then I'm going to assume that the trade has been removed. And that could mean that it's gone into history, but your history's been cleaned out. I'm deliberately assuming here that nothing will go wrong with the order select statement. So if you think that the order select will possibly simply fail and not return something, and so you don't want to go ahead with closing an order, then you could change this to a separate statement. If order select fails, then continue. But then you need these. So, well, I'll just do that. So this is how the same statement would look if you wanted to treat a failed order select as not closing the ticket. And in that case, it will simply continue, which means it will go around to the next element of the array. I'm going to put it back to the way it was because I'm considering that order select works, the internals of MetaTrader will work, and the order select will return that ticket to me if it still exists. And if it doesn't exist, then that means it's been cancelled and removed from history. So now this is the way I have the statement written. I'm saying, I'll just tab that to make it easier. If the order select fails, or the order type is an order type buy, or the order type is an order type sell. Now, you might be thinking, but what if the order select fails? This will be evaluated before this part of the statement. If that part of the statement, which is a not, returns a true value, then the rest of this statement won't be evaluated at all. So I will only get to this part if the order select succeeds. So if the order select fails, or the type of the order is a buy or a sell. Now remember, I'm tracking pending orders, so I'm tracking buy stops, sell stops, buy limits, sell limits. If that current order type now is a buy or a sell, then it means it has converted from an order to an actual trade. Or the order close time is greater than 0. So if you simply cancel that order, it will never have converted to an order type buy or sell, but it will have a close time. When an order is first opened, the close time is going to be 0, but the close time gets set to 0 when either the order converts to a trade and the trade closes, or the order is simply cancelled. So these three conditions are what I need to know that ticket number 1 is no longer a pending order. And if that's the case, then I know ticket 1 has taken care of itself, and I want to close ticket 2. So I'm calling the close order function for ticket 2. And then I want to remove this element from the array of OCO pairs. So I've got another function called OCO remove I. So these are two functions that I need to show you, the close order and the OCO remove. I'll show the OCO remove first. So first I'm getting the count from the array size of OCO pairs, and then I have a for loop beginning with index, which is the element passed in here that we want to remove from the array. So for I equals index, while I is less than count minus 1, I plus plus, and then I'm simply assigning into OCO pairs I the value from OCO pairs I plus 1. So I'm simply pulling all of the elements down by 1, looping up as I go. And when that's finished, I just array resize OCO pairs count minus 1, and that removes the last element on the array, and then just return. Now close order, that's very simple. I'll just scroll up here to, I've got open order there, so I'll put close order after that. And that's a very simple function. That's just the order delete function for the ticket. I could have simply put this order delete inline in my code, but I like to wrap these things up just in case somewhere in the future I decide I want to do some more with something like this close order. So I'm just returning the order delete for that ticket. I think that's everything. I'll just try to compile that. I've got something wrong. I have to put a semicolon at the end of the structured definitions. Loss of data due to type conversion. Let me see what that is. I open order. I'm returning a ulong. That should be an int that I'm returning from the open order. Thing I've forgotten here, I've only written the check for ticket 1. I actually have to duplicate this. Sorry about that. I have to do the same thing. Order select, in this case ticket 2, and if that has been converted, then I want to close ticket 1. And along with adding this test, because if I've actually closed an order here, I don't want to try to test the same value I again here. So what I'm going to do then is just add continue into that first statement. Great. Okay, so everything compiled. Now let's go back to MetaTrader and I'll do the demonstrations on this. Make that 1. So 1 pair of trades. I have a buy stop and a sell stop. If I cancel this sell, delete that. Buy is deleted. Let me run it again. And this time I will delete the buy and the sell gets deleted. Okay, so that takes care of deleting or cancelling those orders. I'll need to go to the strategy tester to show what happens when one of them converts to a trade. Now I've switched to the strategy tester for the demonstration of what happens when one of these trades is triggered, because I don't want to wait for the price to actually move and hit one of these. The expert has already created the buy stop and the sell stop here. And I've moved the take profit and stop loss further apart so that when I let it run and hit one of these, it won't simply close the trade too quickly. So I'm just going to let it go now until it hits either the buy or the sell, and then you should see that the other side is cancelled immediately. All right, so it's gone through, activated the buy. You can see now it's been converted to a buy, and the sell has been deleted. So that's doing exactly what I expect. I will just increase the number of trades now so that we can get more created and see what happens then. So here I'm increasing the number of trade pairs to place to 5. So it will place a new pair. I'm running a daily chart, so it will place them every day. There's the first pair being placed. I'll let that run. Now we're up to the second day and it's placed another pair. And another pair, and now you can see it's activated those two cells. I've got two sell trades open here, and the two buy stops that were associated with those have both been cleared. So that's it. You can see that it's running and doing all the right things. Go back to the code. So just to summarize what I've done here, I've created this structure to simply hold the ticket number pairs. I'm just resizing it there. I don't need to, but I'm just doing that for safety. At the beginning of each tick, I'm calling the function to close any pairs where one of those trades has either converted to a live trade or where it has been deleted. When I open the orders, I'm capturing the two ticket numbers. I'm calling OCO add for those two ticket numbers, so I add those to the array. The OCO add simply increases the size of the array, creates another one of these SOCO pair variables and adds that to the end of the array. The OCO close loops through all the items in that array to check to see if either ticket 1 or ticket 2 either no longer exists when the order select fails, or has converted to an order type buy or order type sell. And remember, I'm not necessarily placing these in the order that ticket 1 is buy and ticket 2 is sell. That just happens to be the order I'm creating them here. So that's why I don't just test buy or sell on each of these. I'm testing both. And I'm also testing that the order to close time is not greater than 0. And if that's true, then it means that ticket number 1 has either executed or closed. And in that case, I call close order for ticket number 2. And then the same, if ticket 2 has converted or closed, then I delete ticket 1. And that's all it takes for the OCO close. There is this OCO remove, which is just a basic function to remove one element from an array and collapse all the rest of the elements down. So I hope that was useful to you. If it has, remember, click the like button, and if you want to see more of our videos, click subscribe. There will be another part to this. So far I've embedded these functions into the expert advisors. I'm going to have at least one more part where I'll move this into a class so that you can simply add that class into any of your expert advisors that you might want to do this with. So until next time, thank you for watching.